So I am going to start this off. This is the granddaughter of the Fillmores. And if you're new at all to Unity, our co-founders are Myrtle and Charles Fillmore. And through their vision, this movement arose. Her name is Rosemary Fillmore Rhea. Once upon a time, there was a place, an almost mythological place, situated in the very heart of America. Unity Farm, as it was called at the time of my birth, was inhabited by a group of wonderful, imaginative souls who had a collective vision. I call it their magnificent obsession. They dreamed of building a city where God, where people of all races, all cultures, and all religions could experience their very oneness in the presence we call God. The idea began with my grandparents, Charles and Myrtle. One spring night, well over 100 years ago, my grandmother, a frail, sick woman, walked into a lecture hall in Kansas City and came away with an idea that changed her life. She was not to let go of this idea, and soon Charles was set on fire with it too. They founded a faith that eventually reached around the globe and blessed the lives of millions of people.
So you think you know the difference.
Well, I smell fresh, young blood in this audience. I ate them. Some people, before Genesis, called me Lilith. Do you know who Lilith is? There was a time and a place where men and women were actually created equal in the garden of good. Let us make them in our image. And Lilith was created from the dust, as was Adam. She was betrothed to that first man. And he had some idea planted that he was superior to her. She said no and flew the coop. Now, most of us read some form of the King James Version, and they took that out. However, Isaiah left it in. If you have not heard this in the Bible, let me share it with you. Isaiah 34:14. Wild cats shall meet with hyenas, and goat demons shall call to each other. There too Lilith shall repose, finds a place to rest. There too Lilith shall repose, that energy-sucking vampire known as women. So some of you have big ideals and big dreams. You think you can change the world. I challenge that today. What are you willing to step outside of your comfort zone and get started doing? As we met with this incredible minister over the weekend, he challenged us that you cannot continue doing things the same way you've always done them, or I'm going to have a whole cemetery full of you. Your ideas are old, your church form is old, and you're going to have to be willing to step outside of that box, or you will join me in the coffin. You know, some of us looked at COVID and thought, in the big universal plan, what was that all about? There was pain and devastation, there was death, there was sorrow. And yet, like all opportunities, there was another side to it. How many of you called your neighbor who was scared to death to leave their home and said, I'm going to the grocery store, what can I do for you? How many companies learned that people can actually do their job effectively from home. You know, I came from Metro Atlanta. I would go every day less than 10 miles one way, and depending on what time of day it was an hour and a half to 2 hours. That is before snow. So we've learned things through COVID. You know, and this is not the first time that we've been attacked by a worldwide pandemic. There was the Spanish flu, known as Purple Death, in like 1918. Do you know it took a third of the world's population? So this is not new to us. But I ask in the universal flow, what is this about? What do you think? Reset, power, family, control. Whatever way we've been doing things, our status quo, our comfort level, bam, it got disrupted. So, you know, I kind of wonder, the generations who say, oh, I want to go back to the good old days. I want to go back to the glory days. Well, the next generation doesn't know anything about that. So it's not their glory days. And even those glory days, in the midst of it, did the people who were in the midst of it know it was their glory days? You know? So we looked at our lessons, and our lessons talk about we came from a way of being where we were all very connected to the earth. We were connected to her cycles. We were connected to the plants and the rivers and the air and the birds and all things creepy crawly. Now Joy just helps us shoo them out the door when the lizards come in. Then we came into this massive generation that said, I want to go to the moon. I want to walk on the moon. I'm going to invent computers. Do you remember the first computers? Who had a typewriter with a correcto ribbon? Boy, I'm telling you, by the time the computers came and I didn't have to do a contract 3 times over, I thought something miraculous had been invented. And now we've got children who don't know how to get off their cell phones. We have microwaves that are doing all kinds of funny, strange things to your food. And we called it progress. And some of it is. We've made amazing breakthroughs in the medical fields. We've made amazing breakthroughs today, beginning to have these hard conversations about mental wellness. And we keep evolving. But those of us who tore up the planet with very little regard to the next generations are here. And they want to know what we're going to do about it. Because some of these generations are quietly just going to go about doing it. They're not going to ask permission. They're not going to go to the halls of Congress. They're just going to be active and take care of each other because we did a pretty lousy job of it. And there were advances to each side of the equation. Where do we find our gifts? Where do we find what we are willing to do as the present being that each and every one of us are today? What are we willing to do in our church community that is changing form rapidly? I know that certain people say, I want this place to grow. I'm like, so what are you doing about it? Because if we're just feeding each other in here, that's great for Sunday morning. It might be magnificent Wednesday night. Y'all get ready. November 15th, celebration of light here. It's big. It's going to blow this roof off. You just wait. It won't even be standing room only. Be laying on the floor. You'll be just knocked out on the floor going, what is this? You've heard of the immersion experience. Anyone been to the Dolly, done the immersion experience? Anybody do the Van Gogh experience? Get ready. We have 3 incredibly talented people going to bring it right here. So that feeds us in here. What are we doing out there? They say that unity is the best kept secret. How many people came here when your life wasn't working? You heard some new ideas. You came from a foundation. My previous minister would say, don't say you're a recovering Catholic, because that was your beginning. That was your first root of any foundation in a religion or a spiritual practice. Some of that's beautiful. I love going into those churches when nobody else is there. I love going to those candles in front of Mother Mary and claiming the goddess is regal and beautiful and alive and well. I'm not kissing that Pope's ring for nothing. But I do kind of like Francis. If anybody's going to change and shake up this world, he's doing it. He's doing it. Now, some of the other ones, I'm glad they're not around anymore. But we have that in all religions, and I'm not going to say that unity is superior, because we are not. We might be a pretty good kept secret, but what we talk about is what is in your heart and soul to find the truth, because my very truth may be slightly different from yours. Are you exploring? I imagine if you came here, you're asking questions. Something isn't working. Not all shots are firing in a good way. Those electrodes that are going in through your body, that magnet that attracts what you are thinking about, that is a premise of unity. Whatever your thoughts are, we create more of them because they're attracted in. And if you don't like your life, stop thinking those thoughts. Change your mind, because the energy really shifts. When you learn something new, you meet someone of a different culture, you have a new experience. Have you noticed you're quicker to recognize it the next go round? And not only are you quicker to recognize it, maybe you now immerse yourself in it. So that when the person walks through the door and says, I want to be included in this community, they're not on the outside, they're actively participating on the inside. And for those of us who are members, it is our job to get the newbies infiltrated. Now, the freedom you have here is to come and go as you please. Learn what you're here to learn. Heal what you're here to heal. Myrtle Fillmore was all about this being a healing movement. She meant physically, and we do have our Reiki masters, and they both meant spiritually, mentally, emotionally. Evolve in our soul's purpose. And if you don't know what that is, we got classes for you. We have Sunday morning, we got Wednesday night, we got ACIM, we got yoga, whatever you need to get in touch with, we got it. And if we don't have it, you start it. I'll find you a spot. This is how we build community. This is how we are the very best of who we are meant to be. If we use big words like diversity, inclusivity, challenge us on it. Are we diverse in our mind thoughts and the people that come and join us and the experiences we bring here, so that we might open our minds, explode what has been for eternity? Because we are the change agents. There's no one and no thing that can stop you unless you let it. When we talk about these mystical concepts, they're not mystical. They might feel that way when we're first exploring them, first using them. But as it was said earlier, I think Bob said it, the universe rushes in and says, yes. So you better know what you want yes to. That's a very premise of unity. And we do it together. We learn together. And we learn how to discipline our thoughts so we don't go down that rabbit hole and say, oh, this is the way we used to do it. If you say that to me, don't say it to me. If you come to me and say, oh, I have an idea. Well, that vampire, that energy-sucking vampire might have to go back in her coffin, because you are claiming you're good. You are claiming your magnificence. You are taking a chance. You are courageous. How does that feel? How many Leos I got in here? Do I have any mains in here? Yes. Leos come in this world to love and learn about self-love. Bold, adventuresome. So for our spirit to be fed, We have to know what we're looking for. And if we're lost and we don't know, keep on coming in. Something's going to touch you. Something's going to go, wow, I have heard this so many times, and today I finally got it. And then next week you're going to get something else because you're in a different place. You're evolving. And some things you might say, I just don't resonate with that. That just doesn't work for me. Okay, don't work for you. It's okay. But I know for people to feel like they belong in a community, they have to be actively participating in the community. So I was a part of a church in Marietta, Georgia for 30 years. One of the service projects that we did was Family Promise. Family Promise is where a number of faith institutes get together and people transitioning through housing, families transitioning through housing, literally would come to our church and live for a week. Hello. That would have been really something. But they live on the premise for a week, and then they go to the Catholic church for a week and the Methodist church for a week. And what we did as members, we fed them. We literally prepared the meals for them for a whole week. They had a place to sleep and cots and blankets and private bathrooms and all that sort of thing. So one Thanksgiving, I thought I was being this magnificent person that I was. And I went to the mothers because the difference of this, in shelters, they often separate young boys from their moms because of ages, sex, blah, blah. Well, this kept families together. You like that technical term, blah, blah? Yeah, thank you. So blah, blah. So we were doing this thing, and I walked into the administration building, and I'm talking to the mothers, and we have this huge Thanksgiving that the church still does. And so the church would buy the turkeys and the hams, and all the members would bring the side dishes. We would have 200 and 300 people. So I went to these families, these women of the families, and I said, we would really like you to come and participate with us. And the ladies looked at each other. Remember, I think I'm a good soul. They looked at me and said, we don't want to come just attend. We want to bring something. I said, what does that mean? I do a 7-Up cake. Would you help me get the things together so I can bake a 7-Up cake and bring it? I said, absolutely. Another lady said, sweet potato pies. Now, y'all like pumpkin? I tell you, some sweet potato pie is some good stuff. She goes, can I make one for the church and one for my boyfriend? I said, yes, you can. They were included because they were included. They weren't on the outside looking in. They got to do something and be a part of it. Do you feel the difference? So we have good intentions, but when someone is invited in to be a part of it, they're not just looking from the outside in. That is community. That is a sacred community. How much richer were we to have that better understanding of what inclusivity actually means, right? So I think this group is going to make this poor vampire starve because I think you're pretty evolved. I think that today is the first day of a new reckoning that you can go with inside yourself and say, what is mine to do? What is bubbling up for me? What challenge is presented? What opportunity is presented? So that when you look at me in the hall or any board member or any sign-up sheet or any person who does our Wednesday, any leader, any group, and you say, I'm ready. Look what I got to be included in this family. Because I think what you're going to hear is a great big, yes, we've been waiting for you. Because we are meaning makers. We are the change makers. There's no one in here at any level, any age, any ability that is not a change maker. Or you wouldn't be in here. You guys are so good to me. So let's take this moment in prayer. Let's close those outer eyes. And I'm going to invite you to imagine a door. I want in your mind's eye, what does that door look like? Is it tall like a cathedral? Is it really small like Alice in the Looking Glass? Is it just a simple door, no paint, wood only? Are you waiting for someone who looks like you to go through that door so you know it's safe? Are you afraid You've done everything you want to do. You're not going in that door. You're not going in that door. The door opens. You are invited inside. What do you find? Open your eyes. And so it is. Amen.